This is Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. Make the time to subscribe. Now let's pull back those sheets.
Can we talk about the relationships? Can we talk it over, see how we can build? Only you and I know that's the way it goes. In this big old bed, they talk it over, so talk it over. Can we talk it over? We can talk it over. Can we talk it over in bed? Talk it over. Can we talk it over? Can we talk it over? Oh, in bed.
How's this year been?
It's been honestly, it's been really good for me. It's
Okay,
been
good.
really good. Yeah. So, I've been really grateful. Even though it's been a hard one for others, it's been really good to me.
You ready to bring some heat
Yes, I
for this
am.
for this
I
topic?
was actually, it's so funny because my aunt is going through the same exact situation that we're going to be discussing today. So I was able to ask her, I was like, listen, like, during the breakup, would you have preferred it in person or through text message? And it was interesting to hear what she said. Like I did a poll on Facebook and it was interesting. It was like really 50-50. Some people were like, I'd prefer it in person. Some people were like, I would prefer it in text message, so it was really interesting to see how divided people are, and their reasonings as to why they were so divided. Like the main thing was that emotion and that connection, and knowing that people still have that respect, even though you guys are breaking up, and whether you can reciprocate that respect still through a text message or through social media and so forth, so it was interesting to have that conversation with someone who's actually going through it currently.
All right, we'll keep the details for the podcast.
I always got some tea.
Yes. Yo, it's your man Big O back for another episode of Talk It Over. Talk It Over is the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. And I must give a shout out to my guests and my co-host, who was actually missing in action today. So Trish, we'll miss you. We'll see you when you get back. She's probably in the friendly skies right now, flying somewhere, knowing her, but it's all good. So I'd like to welcome our listeners, and I'm going to start off a little different. I want to bring in the guests first before I go to the topic of the day, or the friendly, the feel good news story of the day, and then we'll get to the topic. So we got some fan favorites in the building that we haven't heard from a while. So let me go and see what Miss Bree bringing the tea. Welcome back. It's been so long. I'm glad to have you here with us. What's going on?
Hello. It's always a pleasure being on with you guys. I'm so happy to be back.
Where you been?
I've been, out and about helping the kiddos.
Taking care of all the little animals in the world.
Trying my best to.
All right. So good. Definitely glad to have you here and can't wait to get your input on the topic. I know the listeners have missed that voice, that lovely voice.
Thank you.
A returning guest host who is quickly becoming a favorite, Miss Rhea, marriage and relationship therapist. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you for having me back again. Truly an honor.
So you ready to get into? I know you got some definite real life experiences to share with this topic. Maybe
Absolutely.
Not you personally, but you
Right.
with your business. With your business, I know for sure that you've got some stories.
Absolutely.
All right. So, and then again returning, brother Hassan. Welcome back. How are you today?
I am doing well, my brother. I am doing well. I got up today. All my fingers and toes work, so I'm doing all right.
So for those first time who may be listening for the first time, can you share with us, because you had a very interesting news to share. You have a book that has been published and is now available to the masses out there.
Actually, my book has been published about a year.
Okay, all right.
So yes, it's not not just now, but I published it last year, and with the offset of COVID, a lot of the events, for promotion were either canceled or delayed indefinitely, because of the pandemic. So I've just found other creative ways to, to get it out to the masses, to get the information out about its availability, and to just try to help to improve the lives of others that have helped to improve my life.
So how's everybody doing? Are y'all ready for the feel good story of the day? I'm gonna take that as a yes. So this one is actually brought to us by she who shall not be named, but is constantly traveling with her passport. So, but Trisha Trish brought this news to me today, and I thought it was great to share. And this one is coming actually from CNN.com. And the title reads, "This 8-year old, 8 years old, is on a mission to give away 2 million books to underprivileged kids." So Soleil, and I hope I am pronouncing that correctly, Selah Thompson, came home from her first day of kindergarten 3 years ago in 2017, and she was sad because a portion of her classmates did not know how to read. And so she immediately knew that she had to do something. So she said that a lot of her new friends at school didn't know her ABCs, and her parents used it as a teachable moment to explain that different kids come from different backgrounds and have different structures. So this is when Soleil was 5, right?
Yeah.
So she, a 5-year-old at that time, challenged her mother and her father that she wanted her parents to give away 2 million books to children. And so the parents, they said they couldn't turn that down. They could not turn down this child's request. So they began to do some research to find out the root of the problem and the ways that they could best help. So what they just soon discovered was that there is actually a literacy epidemic that exists in America. And they share statistics found from nonprofit organizations such as Literacy Inc. That said 85% of juveniles in the juvenile prison system were functionally illiterate. 2/3 of students who cannot read proficiently by the end of 4th grade. And so all these statistics for literacy blew their minds. Mm-hmm. And so, especially with the correlation between literacy and forecast of doing some type of jail time at some point in their life. They found the correlation there. So what they did was they created a literacy project. Selah, who is now 8, and her family, they created the Empowered Readers Literacy Project, a nonprofit aimed at helping families build strong reading rituals and getting kids excited about books. So it's their first event, which is planned for March in Atlanta, actually had more than 2,400 children and parents attending. And so what they did was they looked at the main issue, and they're trying to, again, just get children excited about reading and excited about literacy. It goes on to say most parents would not believe that a young child was serious about publishing a book, but Selah persisted. She actually started developing Penelope and the Pirate Princess, where the main character looked like her and shared her passion for learning about outer space and science. So right now, the Empowered Readers Literacy Project has donated at least 8,000 books to children since 2018, and they are still striving for their goal of 2 million. Nice. So I thought that was very powerful for this young child at first day in kindergarten to have the empathy to realize, like, hey, my classmates, my new friends, right, don't have the literacy skills, and there needs to be something done about that. I felt like that. Wow, this child is going to be very, very, to have that type of empathy at such a young age.
She's an old soul.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thought. And for those who go ahead and introduce yourself, Najami. Come on, you can go in here and speak. I heard you speaking, so we got another guest in the building. She just commentated on the feel good story, but you might as well go ahead and let the listeners know who you are.
Okay, thank you again, everyone. Najami Lezama, personal development awareness life coach. And my brand, my mission is to help co-create healthy communities by bringing women and men together so we can thrive. I mean, this topic lends exactly into that personal development. If you can't take the thorn out of your brother's or sister's eye until you take it out of yours first. The man, woman in the mirror. We got to work on these things, these habits, these illusions that we were taught as children that continues to create dysfunctional relationships. So that's one of the things I do. Again, massage therapist and for over 30 years and working with people with substance abuse issues. And
Mhm.
also people want to keep themselves healthy. Drinking one of my drinks here. So my name is Bushwoman. Bushwoman's Conversations Project. I'm always coming up with concoctions and
Well,
things to
yeah, I
help
was just gonna
people
ask,
healthy.
what's in that? What's in that drink? It's noon
Oh,
now, so alcohol is permitted where we are.
no, yeah. Well, this is some peach, orange, mango mixed with Irish moss
Okay.
and a green powdered drink and some oats in for thickness for a little more
Is that
flavor.
considered a tonic?
For me, yeah.
Okay. All right.
For
So
everybody, go ahead.
where could our listeners find you, Najami, if they were
They
interested
can
in
find
learning more?
me. Yeah, so you can hit me up on my email, bushwomanconversations@gmail.com. If
Bushwoman
you'd like to,
Conversations.
yes, with
Gmail.
an S,
Okay.
for if you'd like to schedule an appointment for a coaching session, first 30 minutes is free. I'm also on Instagram at Bushwoman Convo. There you find a lot of inspirational and some funny or some enlightening things, conversations. On Facebook, I am Bushwoman Conversations, but the word woman is spelled WO/MAN intentionally, meaning woman and men. We can't coexist this world without each other.
All right.
And
Awesome.
I do a conversation on my Facebook page, Najami Lezama, called Chilling with the Bushwoman, which hopefully, as the new year comes, looking to expand that Chilling with the Bushwoman conversations with the help with a dear friend.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm gonna give you that follow right now on the Instagram page and find
Yes.
some tonic recipes that I can throw up in my life
Well,
and spice it up.
the page doesn't have the tonic recipes per se, some of them,
That's
but my
okay.
page is more inspirational as far as if you're feeling down and you need some encouragement to lift your mood and lift your spirit.
I'll contact you some other way.
No problem. But I can be reached at 347 463 0907.
All right.
347-463-0907.
All
So you can
right. So
reach
for
out to me.
anybody interested in any of those services, definitely reach out to Najami. All right, Bree, where you at?
I'm here.
I want you to bring in the topic, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. Alrighty. So our topic for today, y'all ready? Rejection in love. Is it a loss or a blessing in disguise?
Ooh, that's a heavy question. Is it a loss or can it be both? Can it be a
It
blessing and a loss?
it could be. It could be. Honestly, I want to hear some thoughts. What do you guys think if you're in love with someone and they've decided, okay, this is not working out? Does
Hmm.
it feel more so like a loss? Does it feel like a blessing in disguise, or is it
Well,
even a maybe a journey, right? Where, like you were saying, Olin, where you're experiencing both. In the beginning, it feels like a loss, and within that period of time, you start to realize that it's a blessing in disguise.
yeah, well, that's the thing about blessings, right? In disguise. You don't recognize them immediately because in
Right.
disguise, right? So I would say that the first impulse would be like, this sucks. This is, that rejection, that is a little bit of pain that everybody has some experience with. Rhea, talk to us.
Yes.
What are your thoughts when in your scope when two people don't necessarily make it to that end of the road together, right? Do
Yep.
you feel like that's usually a blessing? Do you see it coming long before they do?
So I think perspective is key. So I'll throw that out there first. And just by nature of the work that I do, I have a tendency of being able to see it before it comes.
Mm-hmm.
But I liken it. So when I'm working with couples and it doesn't work out, I literally will tell people, maybe you're a round peg and you're trying to get him who's this square to mesh with you, and it just doesn't work. That doesn't mean that you did something wrong. It just means that you two are not complementary for each other. So I always try and reframe things with a positive paintbrush, because nobody wants to come to therapy, or nobody wants to leave a relationship thinking they did something wrong. So I really always like to highlight, you know what? These are your set of requirements. And unfortunately, those requirements don't work with this person. That doesn't mean that there's not someone out there that will work with. That just means the person that you're in this session with is not that person.
So have you ever had that conversation with an individual, and despite the logic and the reasoning and the painting on the wall, that they still persist and they're just like, you know what, I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make, this. Have you seen it kind of persist to where it's just like maybe it did
jam this peg in this square.
maybe it defied all expectations, or maybe it just blew up worse than.
So I've seen both. I'll never forget.
Oh, wow.
I had a couple. Well, they were already married. We had one really high tense, high emotion session. So from that, I opted to do one individual session with each partner, just to try and figure out, okay, what exactly went wrong with last session. I will never forget. He came in saying he sleeps with other women. This is not something that he's willing to not do anymore. And I always tell my couples, I have a no secrets policy. So I told him, next session, you're going to have to disclose this information to her. I will not hold this secret. I met with her for an individual session, and she's like, I know my husband, we're not being intimate, so I know he's getting it from somewhere. So both of them, having had these individual conversations with me, they ended up not coming back, because he's like, yeah, I'm not going to disclose that in session. Like, well, I can't continue to do this work with you guys, because you're telling me, because the one thing I always ask my couples that come in, are you willing to do the work? And do you want to remain in this relationship? And I tell people, if your answer is no, granted on the first session that nobody's going to come in saying no, that takes rapport. So I tell people, the hope is that you find this space safe enough that even if your answer is yes today, as we progress, if you realize that this is not where you want to be, you become comfortable enough to say that. He was like, yeah, no, I'm going to keep doing me. I'm going to stay married. I'm not going to tell her. And I was like, yeah, ethically, we can't continue couples work, because you're telling me you want to stay married, but everything else, your actions and your work indicate otherwise. So I had to politely terminate.
Right.
And they're still married. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's another topic for another day. Brother Hassan, I want to get you in here and get your experiences on what, as we've all been, around the bend a couple of times, rejection, right? Is it something that can be handled, if handled properly, doesn't necessarily terminate, maybe it terminates the intimacy, but doesn't have to terminate the connection that you have with that person?
Rejection is a really broad, complex subject in relationships, because there's so many contributing factors to how we react to it, or how we respond to it, depending on of our personal development and who we are as a person. I mean, from my experience being in relationships, it's like there was like an addiction, right? I was addicted to the relationship. But I didn't know I was addicted to the relationship. But we are creatures of habit, so we do things over and over again repetitiously. So it wasn't just the person; it was the rituals associated with us being connected.
Right.
That was painful, because what am I going to do now? Because we got up at 9:30 and had breakfast Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like a conditioning.
So we already conditioned to the habit. It's like we might not be conscious of it.
So Hassan, say everything you just said word for word. Go.
I don't know about word for word. I don't know about that. It's not going to come back exactly the same, but yeah, rejection is one of those subjects with relationships that's complex and multidimensional for so many different reasons. One, because we're creatures of habit. So, from my experience, I just remember being in a relationship and having an addiction, because I actually do have an addictive personality, period. And we're also so I'm basically a slave to habits, good habits and bad habits. So, in a relationship, it could be a good habit at one point, it could be a bad habit at another point when it becomes toxic, counterproductive, etc. Right? So I recall being in a relationship and wanting to be out of the relationship, but being addicted to the person's presence and the rituals that we went through on a daily basis.
Wow,
Maybe
that's tough.
having breakfast, 3 times a week, or Saturdays, or the calls throughout the day. You know what I'm saying? It would be irritating, but then when they're gone, I miss them. So like the
So,
rejection is that the thought that, or the realization that this is being taken away. So then that reconnects to some earlier issues that resurface, like abandonment issues and
okay.
these other lingering or recurring issues. I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
those things come back. You know what I mean? Okay, so
Yeah.
Those
recognize it.
unresolved things.
Yeah, exactly. Well, some things can pop up, like you work on them, but they still don't go anywhere because it's embedded in your subconscious, and you can have a relapse with some stuff that you battled with over years. You know what I mean?
Right.
Rhea, I'm gonna always default to Rhea on this. On the when it starts getting scientific, I want Rhea's input on this because I feel like that's a lot. That's heavy. What Hassan just said is very heavy, and it's blowing my mind because it makes you realize that there could be things keeping you in a quote unquote dysfunctional relationship that you're not even aware of, even if you have the best intentions, right?
Yep.
Even if you are saying like he said, he recognized, but still that addiction kept him there, and then not even recognizing it for what it was at the time. So how do you? What would be your advice, Rhea, for the person that just may not know, like, all right, this is I see the writing on the wall, but I'd rather choose being uncomfortable than facing the unknown, right?
Yep. So I think you always have to ask yourself, what is my why? And literally everything he's talking about goes back to when we talked, or when I was on, and we talked about what our attachment styles.
Mm.
And those attachment styles, they're created based on how we attach to our caregivers as kids. So I think the real question people have to ask is, okay, if I find this person or this relationship annoying or irritating, but when I don't have that, I yearn for that and I miss them, you got to ask, well, why? Because that's not normal. That is
Mm-hmm.
not like healthy, functional something or feelings that come within a relationship. So I think that the key thing is, well, why? Like, why am I like this, and why am I looking for this?
So for people that may find themselves in that situation, where could they go to? Is that something they need to answer on their own, or do they need to actually seek professional assistance?
So I think it depends on the individual. If you have enough insight to be able to sit in that and kind of dig through that on your own, by all means, you can do it on your own. If you're finding that like these nuances about you are impacting you in a really negative way, and it's really affecting other areas of your life, I say seek professional help. Seek the outside professional to help shine light, help pull back some of those layers and kind of process your why.
Man, y'all got me in here sweating.
Honestly,
I'm looking back.
I feel like
I'm about
I feel
to
like
go ahead.
I think it's important to do both, honestly. Like to find those outlets where you can be able to uplift and heal yourself, but also at the same time seeking help from someone professionally who can also help you, because there's there's no pain in getting the extra tools, like the tools, because you may have a set of tools that are very helpful, but there may be more that you need that you just aren't aware of, and like I speak from experience because I was in a situation where I was with this person, and after a while I was only with them because I was comfortable. It felt safe, and even though they were doing things to me that was toxic, like the lying, the cheating, and it was hurting me. And even though I would cry and I would be hurt, I couldn't let that person go. And for some reason, like Rhea was saying, I had to step back and say, why? Why
Mm,
can't I let you go, even though I'm 100% aware that this is hurting me to my core,
mm,
And a
mm-hmm.
part of me had to do, like, because my therapist again couldn't say break up with him, like I had to do that on my own and say, you know what, this is toxic, it is hurting me, and I have to let you go, like whether we're still friends or not, but I have to let you go. I can't be your partner anymore. But there was a
So,
lot more healing that I couldn't do on my own because I didn't have those tools. I still needed to talk to my therapist and like, hey, I did all, I did the work, and I'm using my tools and taking the steps, but I'm still hurting. How can I heal from this? So with the combination of the tools that I had and the tools that I was able to receive from my therapist, I was able to get to a healthier place that much quicker and that much easier.
so did you see that as a blessing when you were going through it, or you had to get on the other side of it to realize, like, okay, you know what? Like, did you feel like you were making the right steps when you were doing it, or was it very tough, very hard?
Honestly, that's where, like in the beginning, you remember we were talking about both. That's where I felt like the both came in, because a large part of me knew that this was the best thing that I needed to do for myself, the best decision that I could have made for myself, because I knew that I needed to grow more and it wasn't going to happen there, But on the same hand, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't hurt because of the things that I knew I was letting go of, like the love and the bonding and the friendship and sometimes we're watching movies and laughing and stuff. There was a lot of good things that I had to let go of. But again, that's where you have to just know, like, I might not see that blessing yet, but I know that it's gonna come, like I know it's gonna come from this decision that I'm making because this is the best decision for me, so just that reminder of like, I know I'm not feeling the blessing just yet, but I know that my blessing is coming because I'm doing what's best for me.
So let me ask this, because I want to throw this in the mix, and this goes to everybody, because now, you know people are able to break up digitally, right? You don't have to be there for the emotional fallout if there is a fallout in person. You don't have to necessarily even see the person to break up with them. So, what are you guys' thoughts on, especially during this time, right? With 2020 being what it is, with the quarantine and the isolation going on, and people being forced to actually do the reflection that Hassan has spoken about, because you don't have to necessarily have those distractions anymore, right?
Right.
There's a lot more time spent indoors. There's a lot more time spent with yourself. There's a lot more time spent if you live with somebody, your significant other or your partner. And so maybe in that we're seeing a lot more. Are we seeing a lot more breakups? And if so, what are the protocols for doing that, right? Because you know public opinion says it's kind of tacky to break up over text,
Right.
right? But that, I mean, that's a reality. People do that. Bree, did you break up over text? Did you do that, Bree?
Yes, I
I feel,
did.
I knew it was.
Yes, I
I knew it was. Bro. I was like, let me go. I said, I feel like I'm talking about
did.
Bree right here.
Listen,
So,
because honestly, the reason why I feel like for me, and I was trying to like, it's so ironic because we were just having my friends and my family, we were just having this conversation a couple of hours ago. And for me, it's so much easier through the text message because regardless if we're doing it in person or through message, we're breaking up, and regardless, again, if it's in person or through message, I'm still going to either be hurting, I'm still going to have these feelings, So
so you
now it's
advocate for the text
yeah,
breakup.
honestly, yeah, because for me it feels easier to do. Now I don't have to look at you. I don't have to worry about
Ouch.
distancing you or yeah, like it makes it
Ouch.
easier for me to move on. So now,
No, I
like
want to see Hassan.
Oh
Back me up here.
wow.
Hassan, back
Hey
me up
man,
here.
I
I,
can't imagine. I can't imagine breaking up with anyone over text. I mean, it's like, wow, that's like a slap in the face to me. It's like, really? Like, you don't got the courage to like
To
speak
see
to me?
me,
You
right?
don't,
You gonna
see
see
me?
what
That's
you
it.
walking away from.
Like, you're such a coward. You know what I'm saying? That you're gonna just like duck out like that.
But
Right.
my thing is,
Wow, I
all
just
right,
can't
so
imagine that. I mean, it's like I would never do that to another person.
so
Never.
I have a question,
Uh
right?
huh.
Would you feel more inclined if you're breaking up with a person in person, right? You're having that conversation. Would you feel more inclined to kind of work things out because now you're sitting down and you're seeing that person's expression? You're seeing how they're hurting.
Uh,
That guilt starts to sink in because
so you
now
think
you're
you're being emotionally
reminiscing.
manipulated?
Kind of, yeah, like because now I'm seeing you and your reaction is gonna make me feel like, ooh,
Like you're a
I
bad
love you,
person,
and
or
yeah, like I don't want to hurt you, but I
But
need to
that's what
break
we
up with
need.
you.
but see
We need
that's
that.
the
We
growing
need
part.
that. We
Yeah,
need
I think
that.
that's the growth. That actually makes you stronger because if you can do
Yeah,
that,
Rhea, back me up, Rhea.
if you can do,
So
He can't
hold
back
on,
you up
hold
on
on,
that
whoa,
one.
whoa, Rhea, wait,
For
Rhea, don't
real.
tell me you're
wait,
an advocate. You an
no,
advocate for
no, let
Texas
me.
breaking? Okay,
So
Let's
hold
wait a
hear
on.
minute.
our sister's
Crazy.
point.
The
Hold
therapist is
So,
saying,
so wait a
yeah, girl,
minute.
do it over text.
So I'm never a all or nothing.
Okay.
I get what Bria's saying.
Uh
Like
huh.
you eliminate that emotionality by doing it through text. And ultimately, if you're setting your decision, we're gonna break up regardless, whether it's done tastefully or whether you think it's done tactfully, whatever the case may be. If your end goal is to break up,
Mm-hmm.
then break up.
on. Right.
I get in through text, like things can be kind of lost in translation, but I also get how it can be easier for the person that has to deliver that news. Because she brings up some very good points. If you're sitting face to face with somebody, I don't want to say there's room for them to be manipulative, but like there's room for them to finagle. You're reading
Yeah.
body language and all
Yeah.
that other stuff
Yeah.
that you don't have to take into consideration if you're doing things through text message. So I say, what's good for you is good for you, and it may be completely wrong for somebody else. So just realizing like what works for you, how your delivery is going to be, I think is what's important, because the breakup is going to
Right.
hurt regardless if it's text or if we're sitting on the couch watching a movie and I turn around and be like, yeah, this isn't working. It's going to
Also,
hurt.
also something that has to be, honestly taken into account is the safety aspect for you guys, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Because there is that component added to it where necessarily men don't. I mean, yeah, men have to be careful because women can get crazy and wild too. But the chances that if that happens, that man is going to be very physically hurt are much slimmer than if it was the other way around, right?
Right.
Because we're all human. Men and women both can act out of character, especially when emotions get high.
So, okay, so let's deal with the present conversation. It depends. I do not believe in breaking up by a text, but there's a big but. We used to talk about safety. If you are with an abuser and you know that you will get hurt, so you try to leave a couple times. Of course, the abuser is very manipulative, so he will convince you and beg and plead, baby, 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 please.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship with a gaslighting relationship and you know you're not strong enough to deal with it, sometimes that may be your best recourse. Or write a letter. If you know the gaslight, you may need to move out of town, out of state, change your locks, all that. So it depends. I prefer one-on-one because it's uncomfortable, but you really got to know your audience. You got to know your audience, and and that's just about your own personal thing. But I am for, having conversations. If I can't have a conversation with you, you'll get a letter very quickly from me.
Certified male.
I like that.
Right.
Because the thing with a letter is that people are curious about what you wrote. Even though the letter will be long, I can write a 10, 11-page letter easy. Just letting all my feelings come out. All right? And I'm very cognizant of the pronouns that I'm using. So the pronouns is not to make you feel bad or come from a judgment place. A lot of we's and us and, kind of a thing.
Right.
So sometimes, and that's very healing. It's very cathartic to write out how you feel as well, even though you and the person broke up. But I think what Rhea had says very important in a relationship is the why. Why are you in this relationship?
Right.
And you have to be able to identify your standards, your needs, and your values. Where did they originate from? And question, is it true? Because a lot of these so-called codes we have for a relationship comes from dysfunctional imprints from families or what we see in society, whatever have you. So you have to first be able to identify what you need as a person, what you're looking for.
Mhm.
Negative relationships, or what we call toxic relationships, are wonderful because it teaches you what you want from what you don't want. And the
Right.
more you know what you don't want, is the more you will attract what you do want. So you have to be able to. I was in a toxic relationship with his brother. I'm working on developing myself as a coach, academic life coach, working at Meg Evans College in Brooklyn. And one day we had a big blow up or whatever. And I said to him, I said, you know what? I'm perpetrating a fraud.
Mm.
I'm perpetrating a fraud because here I am talking to people about inspiration, motivation, how to transform your life, and I'm here dealing with your shit. This
Right.
is crazy. I said,
Right.
that's it, lights out. Because I tried. Okay.
Nice.
Mhm.
Bend
Right.
backwards, dance limbo, walk on bottle, walk on fire. And oh, no, you don't appreciate me. So what it was is really, I was not appreciating myself.
How many
My self
pages did he
worth.
get in the mail?
Oh, he got 11, 12. No, he didn't get in the mail. No, I would write it and leave it where you can find it. I write it and leave it in the apartment where you can find it. I'll put it in a nice envelope or card, put some
Yeah.
perfume in it, put a
Oh,
lipstick
you
on it,
set him
all of
up.
that.
You set him up.
I
He
dress
was
it up
like,
real
oh,
nice
it's
so
a
you don't
love
want to open it.
letter. He said, this
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
love
yeah.
letter. Oh, my baby left me a love letter. What is this?
But I just want to say one caveat. I believe that relationships ought to have relationship staff meetings. I believe, or even family staff meetings, or because you're in a business, you got business staff meetings. I believe
Mhm.
relationships ought to have relationship staff meetings to check in every few months or so, because people grow differently, people grow apart. Sometimes we trigger things in our partner, we're not even subconscious that we're triggering, or you're not even your lover may bring up something that remind you of your father or your mother. I had that in another
Mhm.
relationship. He said one thing, I saw my father. He said something on
Mhm.
another bread, I saw my mother. And it was like, aha. So this is where I got this illusionary
Yeah.
concept of this
Mhm.
relationship thing from. Because, and
Mhm.
then it forced me, it encouraged me actually to go back to Trinidad and have a conversation with my father regarding how his relationship affected me with men.
Wow.
And I felt a whole lot better. I felt like a load was off my back. And then when I came back to New York to try to have the relationship with my mother, she couldn't handle it. You know, she was a Caribbean, drama lady kind of a thing, right? But I
Right.
was able to identify why it is I kept on attracting older men when I was younger, right?
Mhm.
Looking for that daddy, so to
That,
speak,
yeah. Mhm.
right? And then
Mhm.
understanding the verbal abuse kind of a thing, which came from my mother,
Mhm.
Mm,
right?
mm,
So I was able to identify why I kept attracting certain type of souls. So once I
mm-hmm.
identified that, I was able to break the karmic contract. Karmic contracts, karmic agreements is what
Mm.
we need to understand. And once I was able to break that,
Let's take a quick break on that note.
Are you looking to become the best version of you, but need a little outside perspective to help you get there? Please reach out to Mind, Body, and Spirit Marriage and Family Therapy. We provide individual, couples, and family counseling. If you're looking for a down-to-earth therapist that's relatable and that you can connect to, check us out on our website, mbsmft.com. We're also on all social media outlets, on Instagram, The Black Therapist, and on Facebook and Twitter, MBSMFT. You're listening to Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed.
All right, we are back. Talk it over. And we got a hot topic today: rejection in love. Is it a loss or a blessing in disguise? And right now, this guest panel, is kind of divided on the protocols between breaking up, whether you should do it over text, whether you should do it over person. And me and Brother Hassan, we're the only camp right now that says in person. You're gonna break up with me, look me in my eye and do it. Stand up like an individual and do it. So Hassan, what are your thoughts? Let me throw in another wrinkle,
Okay.
because texting in the scope of technology is still very young, right? It's still a very young thing. So do you think that's a generational thing? What would have been
Yeah.
what would have been if texting didn't exist? What would have been the tactless version of breaking up if you didn't do it in person? Telling a friend to tell somebody, or
No. Actually, I'm just thinking about before text. I'm before that era. I came to age prior to technology. With the text invention, wrote a few letters. Like, this isn't working. But I also was a coward. You know what I mean? I also was a coward that I didn't want to deal with the emotional confrontation of being in person. So to avoid that, I wrote a letter, or I would just stop receiving calls from the person. Just like, I see their number, I wouldn't pick it up.
oh, you pulled the ghost move.
I would just cut them off.
You pulled the Casper.
Yeah, I would just cut them off. And if they came to my door, I wouldn't answer the door. I wouldn't let them in.
I think that's worse than text.
Yeah, but but again, that was remnants of my dysfunction.
Okay. Okay.
So it was diabolical. I agree. But that's where I was. I was in that modality. So it's like it was the world according to me, which also plays into relationships and breakups and rejection. Now, another layer of rejection would be, from my experience, is me not actually wanting to be in a relationship but wanting the sex, right? And then the sex is cut off and feeling a rejection because the sex is missing, which was the driving force of the relationship. So the relationship was weak foundationally, and the only thing that held it together was the sexual compatibility, which was only physical. So there was no spiritual, there wasn't much mental, but it was, you can't exist on that. So it's going to end sooner or later anyway, right? So when the inevitable would approach, I would stall and avoid it just to hold on to those physical good feelings. But I would stay in it anyway.
I think we've all been there. Yep, that toxic relationship where it's just like, hey, the only thing that is giving me any joy is the physical intimacy. So I'm at least maintain that instead of leaving and being high and dry, even though eventually that time is winding down. Yeah, I think we've all extended the shelf life of a relationship for those reasons and for other reasons as well. So I definitely agree with you.
I actually add the element of ego. Now, rejection, is the blow to the ego. And it's like, what do you mean you're breaking up with me? You're cutting me off. Me, the great me, as grandiose
Right.
as I am,
Right.
how the hell could you even leave me? I'm fantastic. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. I leave you. You don't leave me.
So I have a question, Hassan, regarding what you just said in terms of ego. Do you think your ego would feel a lot less attacked if it was done through text versus in person?
Well,
that's a good question.
I've actually evolved at this point in time where, I would prefer to actually just break up with the person, in person or even verbally over text, over the texting thing. So if we weren't able to like connect physically, then at least audibly we could break up or, put it on notice that this isn't working and we're going to depart. But the text would be ultimately like a last resort, if I was in Siberia or something. And
that time zone can be tricky.
Yeah,
3 hours ago, you told
Yeah. Exactly. Like I broke up with you at noon. What are you talking about? It's 5 o'clock. Like, no, we not. Hold on.
Exactly. I broke up with you yesterday. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
right. What about you? Oh, do you feel like would you feel a lot less attacked or more attacked in terms of your ego?
I think I think I would feel not so much attacked. I think I would feel a lot more disrespected. right? I think if it came via text, then I kind of, to what Hassan alluded to earlier, I kind of feel like I would be like, wait, you don't even have the gumption, you don't even have the courage to see me face to face. And I've never done that. Like I've had some epic like blow up breakups where I was just like, I need to get better at that part of
Right.
I need to get better at ending the relationship. I've had breakups blow up in my face, very physically, actually. And I still would prefer that over text. I feel like I feel like that is the cost of doing business kind of per
Right.
se, right? Like I get it, I understand it because we've had, we've journeyed together this far and now the journey is ending and I have to honor how you feel about it. I feel
Right.
like if I text you, then I don't even give you that satisfaction, right?
Right.
I just left you high and dry to deal with it on your own. Like I didn't even stand with you at the end to say, give honor to your to the end of the relationship, I guess.
Right.
So for me, if it came through text, I don't know. I'd be like, I probably would call, be like, hey, listen, no, we're not doing it
Right.
this way. Like it is fine if you want to go, but you're going to see me before you go.
So even if it's an abusive relationship, if the woman is kicking you behind or your man is totally cray, I mean, really?
Right.
You're saying if I was in that happened to me. That happened to me. Yeah, no, that happened to me.
And you still
happened. I
prefer
was in.
the in
Yeah, I
person?
was. It was definitely it is what it is. It was a abusive relationship, and I was like, you know what? And I don't think at the time texting was such a huge thing as well. It was still fairly new, so that I don't even think that crossed my mind. But I was like, no, I got to do this in person, right?
Right.
I got to take my lumps. And it got like that period actually was very traumatic.
Right.
Even healing afterwards took. And so, but even looking back at it, I feel like that was a part of the journey. That was a part of my journey. I'm not advocating that for everybody. Again, like Rhea said, and you've also spoken, like do what you need to do to feel safe first, right? Do what you need to do. And then when it comes in the realm of protecting yourself and being safe, protocol and can go out the window. Do what you need to do to feel safe and also not be emotionally manipulated. And so I knew I couldn't be manipulated emotionally going into it. So I was like, that's not going to happen. There's nothing they're going to be able to say that's going to make me change my mind.
Right.
So the only recourse is they accept it and we part ways, or is they don't accept it and it's going to get bad and we're still going to part ways.
Right.
So
Right.
that's how I felt.
I have another question.
Bring it.
So,
Bring
and
it with
this
the
is for
tea.
everyone. Do you think
You sipping
there's
tea? With
you
this
know
question?
I got my tea and my talk it over mug. So do you think there is a gender difference in terms of breaking up through text messages and like versus in person? Do you think there's a gender difference? Like do you think males are more inclined?
No, males generally
Rhea,
are
I'm
cowards.
curious to hear what Rhea thinks.
So I don't. Yeah, when I think about it, I don't think there's a gender difference.
Yeah.
I can't say I've ever had a couple where someone has come in and said, "Yeah, I'm breaking up via text." But yeah,
I'm sending her the text right now while I'm in your office. So she show up. If she shows up, you didn't see me.
I've had people in session, like literally we're talking, and again, it's in the content or about their relationship, and they're like, "Oh, that's a good one. I'm gonna text him that right now, or I'm gonna text her this right now," but never anybody texting like a breakup. So
Okay.
Right. So I guess
what
ahead.
do you think, Bree? What do you think? Do you think there's a gender difference? Like one is more prone to doing it than the other?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think males are more like prone to texting the female versus the female. I feel like the female would kind of want to like FaceTime and still want to see that facial expression. But I feel like males are more so. And the only reason why I feel this way is because, we have this impression that males are a lot less in tune with
Emotionally
their
attached.
emotions. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
right, or
I
emotionally
agree.
expressive, so
I
I
agree
feel
with
like,
that.
like I feel like it would be a lot easier for males to send that message real quick, so that way they don't really have to come face to face with expressing emotionally. I'm saying that Nas is not agreeing. He's like,
So I do. I think, and I attribute it to you. You say emotion, and there definitely is an aspect of that. But I also think, honestly, to be real with you, I think it's a bit of cowardice. It's the
mm,
not the ability to look that person and stand by your word and who you are, and just not just taking the easy way out. Which
right,
I always felt like. I mean, if there's anything that is going to be difficult, it is trying to cohabitate with another individual, right? If there is anything in the world that will test you and test who you are, it's a romantic relationship with another individual. And various other forms of relationships will test you in different ways, but a romantic intimate relationship will definitely test you. And so to me, I just felt like sending a text is so dispassionate, so just or impassionate, just so cold that it's just like you don't that you I don't even know if I could respect you after that.
right,
Right? Like
right,
if you broke up with me, then that's fine. That's one thing. But doing it through text, it's like, oh, I don't even know if oh, who were you? Who were you this whole
right.
time? Right. You don't love me no more.
Did you
So
ever?
really quickly, because since we're on this topic, and I got to thank Anna Banana, our producer, who sent this our way, because there are articles out there that actually speak about how to. They actually give you instructions on how to break up with someone via text, right? But I will say the caveat is that the first thing that they say is that if this is, an actual breakup, you've like gone on more than 4 or 5 dates, you probably should not be doing this via text. A call or afternoon coffee, something is owed. The text should only be used very early on to end something that never really got off the ground. And that I can kind of understand. So really quickly, really briefly, they suggest, and this is coming from Bumble.com, actually, the one dating site that actually hooks people up digitally, virtually. Uh, they say start with a salutation and genuine compliment. Give your reason for ending things, and I want to hear Rhea's opinion on this afterwards. Gently close the door on future possibilities. They end with another caveat saying if the person was not a good date, you are within your bounds and frankly encouraged to say so. If they didn't ask you any questions, if they were rude to your waiter, if they made any inappropriate advances, you can alter the text to skip the compliment. You can simply say, I think we should end things because on our date, you didn't do this or you did that. You talked about yourself. Your behavior was off putting, blah, 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 blah. So, Rhea, what do you think? Are those actual protocols that we should use regardless of the medium of exchange?
Right.
So absolutely, I agree. If you've only had a few dates, I think what Bumble is sharing, that just displays good communication. Like
Hmm.
you're an adult and you know how to communicate and articulate what didn't work for you, and you're kind of breaking your ties or severing that connection. So I think, yeah, those are good. That's cool.
Okay,
So
maybe I need to
I
work on my communication. Yeah, stop with
so
all these.
I have a question, Rhea. If
Yeah.
let's say someone is saying, let's say even a friend, not even like one of your clients or whatever, let's say a friend comes to you and they're like, man, I want to break up with this person, but I'm not too sure if I should tell them in person, if I should text it to them, like, and they tell you their fears or whatever, like their fears of telling them in person or through text message. What would you offer them like as a solution? Like what would you say, like this might be easy, or how should they maybe handle those fears, to be able to come to a conclusion of or a solution of should they text it or say it in person?
So again, it always goes back to the why. Like I would really push in or really dig into, okay, so why are you fearful? Like what are you fearful will happen? And
Hmm.
digging back or digging through some of that stuff, because some of it may be, well, I'm fearful that I'm going to get yelled at. Or
Right.
and if that's the case, I tell people, well, guess what? You're before your expiration date, you're going to probably get yelled at. So practice makes perfect. So utilize, utilize this as an example or as practice, because guess what? It's going to happen at some point in your life. So you might as well get accustomed to it, become familiar with it. Because I'm a firm believer, the more we practice something, the less scarier it becomes, the more we're able to normalize that experience. So I would dig into again, back to the why. Like, why don't you want to do this? Like, what's coming up for you, and kind of figuring out what's that about.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm going to let that be the last point. That was actually, I mean, I think that's what it all boils down to, especially regardless of what the reason for ending a relationship is. Definitely, if you are on the receiving end, you're going to have to do that self-reflection regardless, right? Either you want to or you're not. That's just a natural course of healing. Those questions come out. Why didn't it work out? Why didn't it last? What about me? And then you kind of start to pick through those layers of like you said, Rhea, your why. Your why. Why is it that I attract this person? Why is it that I'm attracted to this person? And as Najami said, sometimes the relationships that don't last are the better ones because they teach you so much about yourself. They help advance your growth and accelerate your growth. And so I would definitely like to thank all of my guests, Najami, Hassan, Bree with bringing the tea as usual, and Rhea as well. Thank you guys for your input. And yeah, Rhea, really quickly, because of all the people here, we're not dating relationship experts, but you are close to it.
Right.
So where can people find you if they were interested in utilizing your services? Are you taking new clients?
So absolutely, I am taking new clients. People can find me. They can check out my website. It's mbsmft.com, and that's short for Mind, Body, Spirit, Marriage, Family Therapy. I'm on all social media outlets, on Twitter and Facebook, Mind, Body, and Spirit, MFT. I'm on Instagram as The Black Therapist, and Black is BLK.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you to all of my guests. Najami, thank you for your very sage and kind words. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go back and play just your part because I was like, that's a lot. That's heavy. I'm gonna have to listen to that again. And Hassan, brother Hassan, thank you for backing me up on the text versus in-person debate. So with that being said, I want everybody to enjoy their days ahead. Let's all get out of 2020 healthy and happy. And yeah.
Can I just say one quick thing? Also, my
Yes.
website is www.bushwomanconvo.com.
Bushwomanconvo.com.
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna be your worst clients because I'm gonna be hitting y'all up all the time. No rest, no sleep for either one of y'all. So all right. So again, thanks to all my thank you to Nas, K.I., thank you, Anna, thank you, sound producer Bumpy Johnson. Everybody enjoy Slow Motion.
You've been listening to Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. We hope you got what you needed. Make sure you subscribe. Holla at you next week.